then I started to steal like a lot. So I've been arrested 18 times.
What happens next?
20 of us in the back room. Everyone's stripped naked. They're stripping our drugs away from us.
Do you think you were an actual criminal at the time?
Before I even knew it, I was addicted and not even knowing this was happening.
Tell us about your experience in jail. Jess Bousa was arrested 18 times. He grew up with a dad in prison, a mom who walked out, battled homelessness, addiction, and a life of stealing and drug dealing. But one final arrest, 4 months in jail, and a rehab program completely turned his life around. Today, Jess is a successful business owner and proof that you can rewrite your story no matter how far you've fallen. Jess, welcome to Locked In.
Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for supporting the show and coming out here, reaching out, and coming on the show to share your story.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Top 5 podcasts I love to listen to. You actually help me sleep at night. You really do. I need something on, and you could ask my wife. It's either Amazon, Netflix, or Ian Bick. So
I give people credit that can listen to a podcast while at the gym or going to sleep. I can't do it. It's just too distracting. I have to shut off the TV or anything before I go to sleep.
Yeah, I'm like the opposite though. I can't do it. It helps me just relax and
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that though, that are able or that need the TV on or a podcast or anything.
Yeah, we're that family over here.
Yeah, to me, because when I find something interesting, then I just want to keep watching it, and I'll pause it and shut it off for the next day. So I don't get interrupted in it.
That's true. Yeah. I would listen to a podcast and then turn it back on the next day and just listen to it again. I like repetition.
Do you do YouTube or Spotify or Apple?
YouTube. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I follow you through YouTube a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, Spotify has some great video now too. Like they're really trying to be like YouTube. They even have a comment section and everything. Okay. I'm always like responding to people in the comments.
Yeah, I'll go. My son uses Spotify. We'll check it out. Yeah, I'll definitely share a comment.
It's not as interactive as YouTube. People are so like I get it. If you're on one platform, you're not going to another. And if you like it on YouTube, there's no way you're going to Spotify or Apple to watch it, or vice versa.
You get stuck on one.
But Apple's like in the Stone Age. They have no video.
No video?
No video. It's just audio only.
They used to be the thing. Like the iTunes, remember that was like the only thing we had. Now there's so many more. But
yeah, I mean, I didn't start listening to podcasts until I started doing this. I had heard a podcast, but I thought it was just like audio, and then the whole world of video exploded. And then when I started this in 2023, that's when I started listening to other podcasts.
Yeah,
I like Rogan, Diary of a CEO, and there's a Jay Shetty. I love his podcast too.
Yeah, I like the video component too. To watch that, it helps me engage more. The audio, unless if I'm driving or something, it's cool. But yeah. I love yours. Matt Cox has some good stuff. Johnny Mitchell. I like true crime things. Yeah, I mean, I gave you the Goodfellas is my favorite movie. Hence, I gave you the Goodfellas picture. So I love those true story, true crime stuff.
Yeah, and I was telling you, I saw Goodfellas for the first time in prison.
That's sad.
There's so many. Like I watched Prison Break for the first time last year. There's just like so much stuff. I haven't seen it.
I know that's crazy. I love Prison Break, but I grew up on Goodfellas. So 1990 came out. I was like 9. And my family, they're cool with that. I was watching that at 9 years old, and so anyways, probably connected to some things later I did in life. But
that and Casino, I saw for the first time.
Actually, the other picture I had is a Casino picture. It was between Goodfellas and Casino.
Well, they're both just as good. I like them. Yeah, a guest will say, "Hey, did you watch this movie?" Like the other day when I interviewed the DEA agent, he said Colors. Like I didn't see it.
I haven't seen that.
No, there's so much good movies that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
So I'm compiling a list of everything that I don't know if I'll get to it, but.
But did you watch all of Prison Break? The whole.
Yeah, I saw the whole. I'll watch it again.
Dude, it's good. I know. I've watched it a couple times through the years. Yeah.
Yeah, it is so good. I'm trying to get Michael Rappaport on the show.
Dude, you got to.
Because I did his show.
Okay.
And we'll text every once in a while, and he lives kind of locally.
Okay.
And I'm glad I didn't have him on before I watched Prison Break because I didn't understand how big of a part he played in it.
Yeah.
But I want him on just for that. I want to talk about Prison Break.
Dude, that's awesome. You should do that.
Where did you grow up, Jess?
So I grew up in Bloomfield, New Jersey. Before that, for the first couple of years of my life, we were in the same area, Plainfield and East Orange, which is not far from there. So North Jersey, close to New York City, is where I grew up. And then my dad kind of story starts really when I was like 2 or 3 years old. My dad and my mom had a huge conflict that literally turned into my dad being sentenced or he was indicted with 99 years of charges. So my dad collected guns, some issues with he had some issues with my mom. He came home one day. He caught her cheating through an old wiretap system. And so he came home one day. I was like 2, and he confronted her about it. And he had a gun in his hand when this happened. And from the stories I've heard through the years, I think she somehow the gun hit her and like did some damage to her. And then the cops came, and there was like a whole closet of guns. And so he got arrested. She went to the hospital, and he had 99 years of charges for all these guns and so forth, automatic guns. He was in the Army, when he was 18. So anyways, that kind of was like the launching pad of my life. And then after that happened, my dad tried to get things together for my mom to put us. So he ended up getting 5 years in New Jersey prison, and so he was setting things up, and she just was kind of wild. That's what it sounds like. She was wild, and she literally gave us up to the New Jersey state custody. So we were like in foster care for like the early part of my life. But it makes a lot of sense if my dad's story. If you look at where he grew up and how he grew up, you could see some of these things, why they happened for my life. He told me recently. Did you ever see the movie The Irishman?
No, I heard that's another good movie too. You're gonna get me in trouble right now, man.
So in the beginning of The Irishman, my dad grew up in Pittston, Pennsylvania. So in the beginning of The Irishman, you got to watch it. It's really good. They talk about Pittston, Pennsylvania, and the Buffalino family. My dad was so bad as a kid that this mobster, and he's huge, Google it, the Buffalino family wouldn't let him hang out with his son. And so my dad has been around the block at a young age. I remember him telling me stories that like 16, he like ran away from home and he ends up in Las Vegas, 10 years old, or he's going to buy alcohol for his dad, and that the liquor stores would allow that, like 10, 11, 12-year-old kids buy it for their father to bring it home. And so anyways, so that's early on. After my dad got out of jail, he was focused. He was sober, and actually 2 weeks after he did 18 months, and he got custody of me and my brother 2 weeks after he got out of jail. So you could see how not good my mom's situation was, and leaving us in the state custody, and how good he was doing at that point. And so he got full custody to us, and then moved us into my grandmother's house, who became my grandmother and grandfather became like pivotal and instrumental in my life, to Bloomfield, New Jersey. So that's where kind of it began, as I can remember.
How was he wiretapping your mom? And was your mom actually cheating?
She was. I mean, he tells this, like, if you talk to my dad today, he will tell you the same story. He tells this story every single time I see him. He lives in Florida. He likes to repeat himself, but old school wiretap, like, and I think I remember seeing these things at my grandmother's house years and years ago, like a cassette tape that was recording the phone, and somehow he was hiding this like cassette deck thing, small thing. And he said he had evidence. Yeah, so it's a wild story. I should have prefaced everything to say, I'm going to go through some crazy stories. I wouldn't change my story, because if I changed any part of it, I wouldn't be who I am today. And and I'm grateful for where I am today. There's been ups and downs and all arounds in my story, but if you change any part of it, I wouldn't be where I am. And I'm super content, happy, have, a beautiful wife and kids and great businesses. But again, it was very difficult to get to this point from a catalyst of a story I just told you.
Yeah, and I think it's relatable to all the guests that come on the show, and my story too. Like, you look at all the crazy things you had to go through those moments to get to where you are today.
Yes. And I don't regret anything. Obviously, you wish you could do some things differently because of the people that you hurt in the process, but all of it, has been used to get me to today, and I'm thankful.
Was your dad's arrest publicized in the paper?
Yeah, it's still actually, he didn't know about how you can search yourself until recently, case searches. So my dad's, dude, you should have my dad on, but so one time I went from homeless to Harvard, and we'll go through that. But I was in school in Massachusetts, in Boston, and I got a phone call from my dad's in the bathroom in his house in Lake Apaca, North Jersey, and he's got the bathroom barricaded, and he's like, Jess, SWAT team's at the house. I what should I do? I'm like, Dad, what's going on? He just got maced, so he's calling me. I'm at graduate school. He's in the shower. This is a true story. You could Google it. SWAT team's at the house, and they want to arrest him because right before that there was a cop on the bottom of our property who, I can't remember all the details, drew a gun on him, and my dad says was about to draw a gun on him, and my dad had a rock in his hand, or was about to get a rock. He says, if you take that gun out of your holster, and I'm going to throw this rock at your face. So the guy went for his mace instead of the gun, and my dad got maced, ran up the hill to our house, ended up in the bathroom, and called me. And I was like, Dad, just go get arrested like a man, and we'll handle it. So then I drove back through Connecticut from Massachusetts to my dad's house, and he recently, this happened in 2005, and I told him about case search, and now that's on the case search, that situation. But they made it, it says that he disarmed a police officer. So anyways, yes, the long story short, all this stuff's on the case search.
Did people give you a hard time, like bully you, pick on you because of your parents' situation when you were a kid?
No. We grew up in Bloomfield, New Jersey, close to Newark. So like, it's like a melting pot of all kinds of people. And we were on the tougher side of things. My dad always kept us tough. And, so yeah, no. We weren't bullied. If anything, we probably bullied, but or something. We were, but I wouldn't say we were bullies. We loved everybody. Everyone loved us. It was kind of a value that my grandmother instilled in us, and so we had friends every different color, ethnicity. We were like the only white kids on the block. We were living in Bloomfield, North New Jersey. So
how would you have described yourself back then?
So I was the class clown, the wild child. Ambitious, as a kid, daredevil. So I was an amateur BMX professional bike rider. So moved to Bloomfield. I actually was on the phone with my best friend driving up here today, and we started riding bikes at like 5, literally. And so we rode bikes from 5 years old to like 17. So in that process, I really loved it. My goal was to be like one of the 100 people or so that get paid to ride a pedal bike, BMX freestyle bikes. Do you understand that?
My brother used to do BMX and everything.
Yes, exactly. So at one point, I was sponsored by the local bike shop. I remember they paid for me to go to some contest. I went to Woodward. So when I was 16, that was like the mecca of extreme sports. There was only one of them in PA, Woodward. That's where the professional athletes live. Now there's like 7 of them or so around the country. But Dave Mira, are you familiar with that name? Mm-hmm. Google it. So he's the godfather of BMX. He won the most gold medals in extreme games. He was my instructor that day, and we were there for a week. By the end of the week, I won a contest there with a guy who ended up in winning the first extreme games dirt jumping contest, and he's still a professional to this day. So that was my thing. Like, I lived and died riding my bike all the time and got really good at it. One contest, I remember there was a contest on Flemington Speedway in New Jersey. Box jump, huge speedway, big metal ball with the dirt bikes riding in circles. You've seen those things maybe at fairs. And so, yeah, I loved it. So I was an extremist. That's where it started. Some of the extreme things. I wasn't scared to fall. I mean, I've broken multiple bones, my teeth, my leg, my wrist, my knee, multiple things have happened. So,
did you plan on taking BMX all the way as a career, or did you have something else in mind?
No, that was it. I mean, other than, yes, I wanted to, and it was kind of working. And then obviously we'll talk about the U-turn in my life, or the turning point that changed things. But yeah, but I also wanted to be in like law enforcement. Like I wanted to do that. I was in, we're kind of go all over in the story, but my first year at a high school, which we'll talk about in a second, I was in criminology at a community college, Morris County Community College, and I was getting arrested while I was taking criminology classes, which is hilarious.
So tell us about high school.
So we lived in Bloomfield until 8th grade. 8th grade summer, going in 9th grade, my dad got remarried, and he married my brother's best friend's mom. So she had 5 kids, plus me and my brother, and they wanted to get us out of the city area, like Newark and stuff, because it's gonna, because there might be bad things we could pick up. Well, we moved to Lake Apaca, and it was way worse up there, the white suburban area. And so they thought they were helping us escape, but we were just like, it was like the opening a door to like all kinds of crazy things. So we moved to Lake Apaca in ninth grade. So I started a new school in ninth grade, met awesome people. My brother and I and my other step brothers, we connected with everybody. That's where, again, BMX got really more involved in BMX. I rode my bike everywhere, but I really didn't pay attention to school. I didn't start doing drugs or alcohol yet because I was an athlete, but I did like to steal things. And my brother, like, we loved to steal things when we were younger. We did some crazy things. I was, going through some of these stories, but one time in high school, we stole. Back in the day, you would have to, when you get your license, you would bring like $5. This is when we were there, and your birth certificate and your social security card, and you, like, for driver's ed. One time we stole all of those $5 from like the whole driver's ed class, and then threw everybody's birth certificates away. But those were some of the fun things because we were bored. But I had a racket where we would go to the malls, and I would literally get a list of things from kids that wanted in school. Like, I remember back in the day, we actually we set trends. We were different things. The visor hats, we sold a lot of those hats. Phones. So anything a teacher wanted or a student, we would get a list and then go to the mall, steal it, and then sell it to them the next day. Like, we literally did that. Some of the protocols and processes that these security people have these days, like Home Depot, we created those. Because of how much we stole. This is I bought 5 cars when I was a senior, 5 used cars when I was a senior in high school because we were just selling so much stuff. I always had money, and that bled into selling drugs. But so we were robbing. One time we went to the. I remember we went to the mall. And we did a lot at the malls, like a lot. I actually went to the Danbury Mall today.
You didn't steal anything,
No,
did
I
you?
didn't steal anything.
Okay. We don't need them after us.
No, we don't need that. Yeah, it's been since February 10th, 2002 is the last time I drank, drugs, or stole or committed a crime. So just to put that out there. But yeah, we would go to the malls and do all kinds of stuff. I remember there was like those vendors that are out there in the middle, like selling things. Like we took the whole cash box. It was like $5,000, like when they weren't looking. Purses. One of the craziest things I remember, though, my brother, when we got a group of us, and this is back in the day when they didn't really build the malls as good as they probably changed what they did because of things we used to do. But at night, we'd go to the mall in the back alleys of the mall behind the stores. We would break through the wall on the side of the metal doors, and they were sheetrock with wood, and literally just make a hole through the wall. And I remember one time the store's out of business now, but this is when DVD players just came out. Like, they were like $1,000. I don't know if this is years ago when we were in high school. And we did that, got like bags of DVDs. They had DVDs. I don't even think they were selling them. They were like on showcases, like in the very beginning of DVDs. But we got DVD players, CDs, DVDs, bags of stuff, video games. I can't remember what the PlayStation 1, whatever was out. And we would I remember us, like 5 of us, army crawling through the mall parking lot. And we did get away. Eventually, some people, I think, got caught because, they'd start talking and so forth. But yeah, so that was high school. My brother, a sad thing, crazy story that happened in high school. One of my brothers, my only brother, and his best friend, who was like a second brother, they robbed a gas station with Halloween masks with mag lights, like a local gas station, and they got away with it. Like, they strong arm robbed, and they were like 15, 16. So they got away with it. This is when we were in high school, and eventually people start talking, and his best friend, who was like a second brother, ratted on and turned state, against my brother, and my brother got a life sentence as a juvenile. He had to do like 2.5 years. They wanted to give him like 10, but my dad got a lawyer, and he was half of high school or more. He was in like Jamesburg, New Jersey, Gladiator School.
Why did you feel the need to steal?
That's a good question. I guess maybe because we didn't have a lot, and we didn't have a lot. We had enough, though. It's like I didn't have to, but I guess maybe the adrenaline, because there's a lot of adrenaline robbing things and stealing. but yeah, maybe because we wanted more, and I was an extreme type of person, chased adrenaline.
Do you think your dad was a good parent at the time? Or do you think prison kind of made him more, I don't know, sheltered or not wanting to be a good parent?
No, he was a good parent at that time. Yeah, he was clean. So for 15 years or 14 years after jail, he never drank or did any drugs, nothing, until he caught me doing drugs when I was 18. He took drugs from me. He thought that it was coke, it was heroin when I was 18, and then he put them and hid them, and then one day he decided to do them, and it started like, I don't know, it was like a 10-year run on drugs and chaos. That's when he ended up, calling me from the bathroom.
So was he not strict with you?
No, he wasn't. He had a girlfriend. I lived with my grandparents. They were amazing. I was taking the bus from Bloomfield to New York City, like when I was like in 8th grade, like 7th grade, like buying firecrackers and phones and bootleg things in Chinatown, like me and my friend. That's it. So they allowed us to do whatever we wanted. So you could, your grandparents usually are more relaxed. And he was working. He started a really successful construction business, and he was in his 20s, and he was building multi-million-dollar condos, which is a lot back then. And houses, framing houses and condos. So he was running like this motley crew type of a construction company. We lived with my grandmother. He lived there too. He had a girlfriend. We would go to New York City with him. He loved New York. So it was loose there. It was loose.
Guys, enter the room, trouser tighten first. Blue Chew isn't just a tablet. It's like putting your trouser tighten through Navy SEAL training. Stronger, harder, longer lasting, like it just finished Hell Week and earned its trident. Last time I tried Blue Chew's tablet, my girlfriend said I was acting like a superhero. Full team, Captain Energy, calling plays in the bedroom. Guys, this isn't just about performance. This is about legacy, or third leg, a C. Give her group chat something to talk about. When you lay it down, they're talking about how it gets up. Nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for all of our locked-in listeners. Get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use promo code LOCKEDIN at checkout and pay only $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head to BlueChew.com for details and safety info. And big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring the episode. Now, would you chalk your childhood, those teenage years that you were getting in trouble, up to kids being kids, or do you think you were an actual criminal at the time?
I turned into a criminal at some, one time, so in high school, the 17, so I was about 17, and the bike thing was there. It was like at the crossroads, like I was doing really well with bikes, and then like some of my best friends, the star athletes of all the sports who we were best friends with, introduced me to drugs, and I did it. Like I should have never did it, because I've said no many times through the years, and I was just so focused on doing the right thing with bikes, and that just one time I was hooked, first hooked on selling it. I have a business mindset. I was a street pharmaceutical type of individual, and so I saw this opportunity to sell. Then you're at school; it's the best place to sell drugs, right? Even though you could get caught easily. So early on, I got caught though selling 26 pills of ecstasy when I was 18 in high school. It was senior year, and I had 26 pills in my pocket. And I was just pulling up to my one of my best friend's house, and a cop pulled right behind me. And I was so stupid. This was in the beginning, and that you would think that I would have learned. But my dad let me go to jail. So 5 days in county jail. Eventually, they let me out on my ROR. But I was in the newspaper, drug dealer. So it was labeled. And so that was difficult a little bit going back to school, because everyone knew that, and I had to finish schools. So at that point, things started to get real wild. So during that, right after that, at some point, we went to Woodstock. So one of my best friends' family, they have a lemonade stand business at NASCAR events, and they got the gig at Woodstock. So they're get 30 of your best friends, coach bus, 2 days before, 2 days after, VIP pass, food the whole time, and we'll pay you, and you just got to sell lemonade. Did you see the Woodstock documentary? I swear, one of those pictures is me. Dude, it was wild. So 30 of our best friends were all together for that time. And I mean, that amplified and supercharged the drug, because the acid, the mushrooms, everybody was doing everything together, and the riots, we were like right in the middle of that. We were throwing cars and ATM machines and those. You got to watch the documentary. It's called Trainwreck because the whole thing was a
Yeah,
train wreck.
I saw it
It was
came out.
disgusting. The place ended up being like so disgusting because of the trash they didn't take away, and no one cared. But yeah, so I mean, it was like a combination. Like I got arrested, and that was ecstasy was the door into like the club scene. So then somehow, some way, I can't remember all of these details, but we ended up selling drugs in the club. So the ecstasy connection, and that's where people did it. Ecstasy and K. So I remember one time I had 144 licks of K and hundreds of pills, and one time I was in the club, and I was just thinking through all this, and the club got raided. But now that I look back on it, and like a bunch of drug dealers were in like a back room, and we had to all take our clothes off. But I think it was like the club doing it just to get our drugs, because I was high, and maybe it did get raided. But I remember one time they had like 20 of us in a back room, everyone stripped naked. They're stripping our drugs away from us, and again, I don't, so that was wild. The Sound Factory, the Tunnel, and some other local, raves and
So this was like senior year of high
senior
school?
year. This all happened in senior year.
And what kind of clubs are you selling drugs in?
So New York City clubs, and then like there would be raves that would happen.
They let you in at 17 years old?
No, I was 18. So it was 18, 19. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't start doing drugs and alcohol until I was like 17, almost 18. Then I got caught selling drugs. I got a possession with intent to distribute charge when I was 18, but I got PTI, probation before, or PBJ or whatever.
And while you're doing that, you were doing criminology classes.
Well, yes, yeah. No. Then I graduated. Like they literally forced us to leave the school. Me and my brother tormented this community. When me, my brother, and my dad all have multiple resisting arrests on the police department in that town. We've been arrested together multiple times. Me, my brother, and my dad at different times. But they like Luke was in jail, right, juvenile prison, and I just that last year I didn't care at all. So they were like, I remember that we were in a meeting with the principal. They're like, well, you got to go. We're letting you graduate, like even though you shouldn't. So. And then that bled into the senior year, bled into the first year of community college.
And that's when you went for criminology.
Yeah, so I was in criminology. I did 2 semesters. So that's when, at that point, I was selling drugs, and the transition came where I became my best customer. So then I got addicted to heroin and cocaine.
What interested you about criminology? Why would you want to go to law enforcement when you're already getting arrested? You're doing crimes, criminal behavior.
Well, I guess my best friend, who sadly passed away, his dad, who was influential, was like the highest ranking state trooper in New Jersey, who like literally the first time I ever got in trouble, me and my brother at the mall, we had a terroristic threat, and we were trying to steal at a store in the mall, and they knew we got in a big fight saying we're going to kill you, and we were like 17 or 16. So immediately called Dave Schmeltz, the state trooper, first lieutenant, like highest ranking, like, and he got us out of it actually. And so I had a close relationship with Eric, who was his son, who passed away, sadly a couple of years ago. Super amazing person, and got caught up in the drugs and alcohol. And so possibly Eric, Eric's dad, who who I talk to here and there still actually. So
What happens next?
So we're in community college. I start getting addicted to heroin and cocaine, and it actually just happens. You don't really know. You're just partying every day. You're doing coke and heroin and drinking, and just like, and then it's like the weekends, and then Thursday, through the weekend, then it just ends up being every day. And honestly, before I even knew it, I was addicted and not even knowing this was happening. And so then I started to steal like a lot. So I've been arrested 18 times, and I thought it was 16, but actually it was 18, because in 2018, when I went back to look at all my charges to get a financial securities license, stockbroker license, I was going to take that test. You have to get all your criminal stuff. So I literally took Jessica. We went to Jefferson Township, Wayne, New Jersey, Newark. We went to 5 police departments, and I got all my paperwork, and I had 18 arrests at the end of the day. and there's things on there I forgot about. But I have like 5 or 6 shopliftings. I have like 2 or 3 resisting arrest, check fraud, wandering or loitering white people in a drug zone in Newark, New Jersey. The last, I have a robbery charge, which essentially was an upgraded shoplifting because the last time I got arrested, I had 20 video games on me. I was at a Walmart in Elizabeth, New Jersey, Union County, and I was on Xanax trying to get money to go sell. I would, my hustle was, there's a store in Newark, New Jersey, and he would pay 50% cash for anything brand new, like video games, DVDs, and systems. So I took too many. It was February, and I had like 20 video games. It was like $1,000 worth of video games all over myself. And I was on drugs too. And so I came out the store. It's a huge fight. Undercover or off-duty security guard was a off-duty cop. Cops are there. Somehow he broke his arm. I don't even remember this, like in that fight. We got into the car, me and my girlfriend at the time. We're eluding. I'm maced up bad. I'm like, just pull over. I was done. It was over. We were like in the 4-cylinder Mustang going nowhere, a million miles an hour. And so then they took everything they could and because I had like 5 or 6 shopliftings close together. Because if you steal like every day multiple times, the chances are what happens is like you just walk outside the store and the cops are just there. Like if you're in multiple stores all the time, I literally drove up and down New Jersey, like from the top to the bottom of the state to all the malls, Circuit Cities, Best Buys, and literally stole video games and DVDs for 3 years. And so so you're going to get caught. It's just the odds are against you. So at that time, my dad kicked me out at 19. So I lost school at the end of that year. I got kicked out. And what happened was I was selling drugs. I was doing them, but I was selling them a little bit at that point just to make money for them. And I was selling to an undercover informant. Somebody in our circle got arrested and was using me to not get in trouble. So I didn't know that until like the last buy, and it was 3 buys. So and at the last one, I was like, there's no way, because he was paying like 5 times how much he should, and that's when I'm like, this sucks, and I was addicted to. So one night we're at my dad's house in Lake Apacon. It was like, I don't know, 10 p.m. I'm in the basement with a girl. We're smoking crack, which is horrible. And I was 19, and my dad was upstairs sitting on the couch with his wife watching a movie, and all of a sudden, no knock search, 19 Morris County Prosecutor's Office officers with masks break through the door. So my dad, they didn't have anything disclosed in the front of them, and they didn't say anything. So my dad is nuts, like I told you. He's literally choking 2 of these officers before they said, police, police. And once they said that, he stopped, and then they beat him up. I'm in the basement. I hear things going up. So like our basement just flooded, thankfully, and there was no carpet. So I pushed all the crack like on this like concrete floor. They didn't find any of it because it just like blended into the concrete basement that needed a new rug. Like there's glue on the floor and stuff like that. So he's up there. They're like manhandling my stepmom. So my dad gets arrested. And I get arrested, and they're looking for guns too, because the gun charge. They're like, "Where's the guns?" The first thing they're saying, "Where's the guns?" Because of that old gun charge, and then they don't find anything. There's obviously no guns. I had a bag of weed, and he gets arrested with worse charges than me because he assaulted a police officer. That started an 8-year like civil suit with my dad in the courts, and he literally had a multi-million-dollar payday coming. And then that situation happened I told you about with the rock and going to disarm a police officer. So he got arrested that day, and in order to get rid of either he goes to jail or he gives up the civil suit. So he gave up the civil suit and didn't go to jail for a long time because of all his charges.
So what happened to you that day? Did you get
So
arrested?
I got arrested. I had $1,000 in my pocket. I actually had drugs on me that they didn't know about in like a little pocket. So we both went to the Jefferson Township jail. I had like a $10,000 with a 10. He had like a $50,000 with a 5 or with a 10. So I paid my $1,000. I got out of jail. He had to go get processed into the county jail, which he wasn't happy about because he had like assault on a police officer was bigger. I had like a paraphernalia charge. So that was I had a paraphernalia charge. So that, I was on probation for the distribution charge at that time. So I don't even remember what happened. I did like the 30 days in jail. I think that's what happened at the end of that.
For selling to the undercover.
Yeah, well, yeah, for that possession charge. They were really, yeah, I got the possession of marijuana charge at the end. Yeah, and selling to the undercover. Yeah, but they became focused on my dad for some reason. Like we were bad. Like they wanted me, my dad, or my brother.
Well, why'd they keep giving you so many chances and slaps on the wrist? Like, why allow someone to get arrested 18
I
times,
know,
keep getting
dude.
out, and keep doing that same behavior?
I kept things organized, even though my life was chaotic. Like when it came to like, I always paid my fines, even though I was out in the streets, living in crack houses and sheds and stuff. Literally was homeless for like probably 2 or 3 years, literally bouncing around. And I've lived in a shed, slept in abandoned houses. Ended up moving in those 3 years after I got kicked out of my dad's house after that arrest, the house getting raided. I literally moved to Newark, New Jersey, like down the road from my drug dealer. Like it was crazy. Like, and I remember renting like a room, like white kids and you're not supposed to do that or be there, but they didn't care. I was bringing them money, and they were cool with us because again, I was their client, like one of their best, and ended up doing $300 worth of drugs a day. Literally, I was doing 30 bags of heroin a day.
And how are you able to do 30 bags of heroin without overdosing?
Well, if you build a tolerance, and I use some coke with it, and yeah, I have overdosed. Thankfully, I didn't die the one time. I remember my friends, helped me get back, to life essentially after I was blue in the face and so forth. But multiple people have died. So in our situation, like I could, from 16 years old till even recent, like I was telling you about my best friend Eric. He passed away a couple of years ago. So like we had this lock and hold on in our community on heroin, like, and we were bad. Yeah, we were bad. If we had fentanyl, we'd all be dead. Like I'd be dead. I should have been dead back then, but fentanyl is killing people quicker.
Do you think the crimes you committed were all influenced by your addiction issues?
Everything was, yeah. Everything I did was influenced by addiction. Yeah, yeah, yep, yeah.
Do you think you were trying to escape something, like something internally?
Yeah, I mean, once you start getting arrested, and you like, as you know, you get a record, and it does limit what you can do in life. So once I knew, like you can't go down the path of criminal justice, and I do remember wanting to be like a U.S. Marshal. Now that I think through it, crazy, right? So yeah, I guess it does get addicting, physically addicting. Like, and I've been to 6 rehabs, in that 3 years. I tried to get off of drugs. My dad helped me, family helped me. But if you never do it for yourself and just other people or a situation, so eventually, like the 7th rehab changed my life, after the 18th arrest. But
Now, how many years are you going through addiction and getting arrested and getting let out and not facing any serious repercussions?
so it was 3 years. So I literally turned 21 in jail. So 18, 19, and 20, I was out there running and gunning, and it was literally hell on earth. I was good at making money, selling things and stealing, but it still was torture.
And you never worked a regular job at all at that
Never.
point?
Like dude, no, I never worked a job until I started my own things. But I did have a job when I was riding my bike at a local restaurant for a day. It was washing dishes, and I was like, dude, I literally walked out. I'm like, I need to get on my bike. I can't do this. It was like $4.25 an hour. That's the only job I ever had that wasn't working for myself.
And you had no communication with your mom?
So my mom recently passed away, which is sad, but no, I did have communication. Very little. It was a little bit. My dad was my main, stable parent in my life. But she would pop in and out of there at times. And then at the last couple of years, a little bit more and more. Sadly, she passed away at 70. So
How detrimental do you think your parents ending their marriage was to your growing up and future? Do you think this was all caused by their breakup? Was that like the impactful moment in your life?
no, I think divorce has a very powerful impact on kids' lives. So it could be. I mean, I was 3 or 2, so I didn't really know anything but my grandmother, and my grandfather raising my brother and I, and my dad being there. So things were very good. they gave us everything we wanted. So I didn't start stealing until I was like 16, 17 when I was out of their house. You know what I mean? And yeah. So, but yes, I mean, obviously, when a family's divided, it's more difficult.
But did anyone teach you right from wrong, not to steal?
No,
Like maybe they tried to teach you after, but
yeah,
before
I don't
that,
remember. No, I don't remember. No, I don't remember. I don't remember. No, I don't. I'm assuming my dad doesn't steal. He doesn't do that. He's he has high integrity when it comes to money. So I don't, I don't think so. It was the influence of people around me. Actually, the first time I remember now, the first time I ever got caught stealing, the first time I ever stole, I got caught stealing. I was living in Bloomfield still. I was with one of my best friends. I stole a pair of Scottie Pippen shoes and literally got caught. And I think he was older and I was younger and they just let me go. But that was when I was still living in Bloomfield, so it was like middle school, like at the Willowbrook Mall. But it didn't really get aggressive until it was like a little business I had in high school.
so you're on this binge from 17 to 20. What
Yeah.
happens at 20 before your 21st birthday?
So I'm like before the last arrest, I'm literally living in like driving up and down New Jersey, living in these like little hotels and motels or in the car, using heroin, coke, and I and then that last time I got that, February 10th, 2002, that Walmart incident happened, and that time I couldn't get out of jail. So the other times, yeah, sometimes I bailed out, sometimes they let me out. I did 30 days was the most before that. And so this time they're like, you're getting 3 years in jail now. We're not letting you out. So, and I can't remember the bail, but nobody was paying it. And so I was about to sign to do the 3 years and, three flat. So at three flat in New Jersey at that time, there was a robbery charge. So there was force used in the course of theft. So that I might have had to do 85%. I forget. But right before I was signed that, but right before that, I did some bad things to my dad. And he should have never came and did what he did. Like one of the worst things I did was I literally robbed all his stuff in his house and made it look like somebody else did and then called the police on that other person, which was me. And he thought it was somebody else who did it. I mean, he knew it was me, I think. But I did some horrible things. And so I was in jail that last time after 18 arrests, and he came to court and he's like, Jess, don't sign that. I found this rehab that you can go to, we think. It's out of state though. So we got to get things lined up because New Jersey, most states don't let you go out of state. You probably know that to do things. So I didn't sign it. We went back in front of the judge. And they said yes. They said that actually is the only rehab we'll let somebody go to, and it's called Teen Challenge.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and they changed the name. It's Adult and Teen Challenge, which this place changed my life. So I'm obviously homeless, addicted, student debt, credit card debt, all these arrests, no license. Walking into into jail. So I stayed there 4 months. And then I was released to the rehab. And I remember the judge said, listen, he's like, if you don't finish this rehab, if you get in trouble in this rehab, I will give you up to 10 years. That's what kept me in that rehab for the most part until like I wanted to be there, until I was like, you know what, there is a purpose on my life to do something beyond, the party scene and so forth. So I went to the rehab. I did 4 months in Union County, which we just drove by coming to see you, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, is where Union County Jail is. So I did 4 months in the county, and then my dad came and picked me up, and then drove me to Syracuse, New York. So I did 12. I actually did 14 months in rehab, 4 months in Syracuse, New York, 8 months in Raresburg, Pennsylvania, and then before I went to college, there was like a 2-month gap. I'm like, I don't want to go home because I know if I go home, bad things could happen. So I went and just like volunteered at the rehab for 2 months. So I went from homeless to jail to rehab to college.
Now, you said that you were in and out of rehab a few times before or tried to go to rehab.
Yeah.
Why did those times not work?
Because I wasn't going for the right reasons. I was like going to dodge, at those times there was small criminal charges, like to dodge like small jail times or to like please the probation or Probably a little bit. I wanted to get help because I knew it was hard. But when you start getting sick, dope sick, it's very difficult to kick. It's the hardest thing in the world to do, and it is good to be in jail to do that because you have no other chance or option. Because when you're in a rehab, you start getting sick, you just walk away, or you meet somebody and you're like, let's go. And it's just like one time I had the whole rehab strip search by the state police because I brought drugs in. Like it was just I just was bad all around. Yeah.
Tell us about your experience in jail.
So those 4 months, I was just an emotional roller coaster. So I went in there, obviously kicking heroin, huge habit. Um, I I remember initially I was in with this younger guy that was doing like 20 years for robbery, and he was wild. We fought like in our cells together, like playing chess and checkers. Like the kid was just like losing it because when people are there a long time, they don't care, and and they don't like people who are in there a short time. So that first month I was with him, it was difficult. I'm kicking drugs, fighting with my roommate. You never know what's going to happen. Big guy. I'm like 130 pounds, nothing, right? I'm like 225 now. And so, but thankfully I was moved to spend the next 3 months with this guy. I remember, Albert Salazar. He was in for, this is a second murder charge that he was doing. So he served one murder and committed another murder because of a robbery that somebody died in. Nice guy, old guy, so calmer. Like he was like in his 60s. Just kind of took me under his wing, helped me go through the process. We talked a lot, told stories, just helped you. If you find a good connection, it helps you jail better. Played basketball. I mean, but yeah. I mean, it's been a while. It's been 2002, so 23 years since I've been there. But yeah, but in jail, I didn't change yet. I still wanted to like do my thing. All those demons still of addiction were still in there. So nothing yet changed. So then I went to the rehab, and it actually got worse in the rehab. I like really didn't want to be in the rehab, especially the first 6 months. I like tried hard to almost get kicked out. Like I was fighting with people, cursing people out. I just was wild still. Like still again, all the struggles inside of me. And then the rehabs ends up being like a faith-based rehab, and like I wasn't looking for faith. I tried a lot of things to like be focused on and find purpose, like to try to not do drugs. I had like coaches and counselors and drugs to get off drugs, and rehabs and therapy and meetings, and like all those things never, for me at least, got me to stay sober. So I was like, God, if you're real, like do something, like reveal yourself. Like I don't know, I don't even know what to pray, like at that point. But it just felt like when I didn't know what to pray, and I just felt like God met me in that moment, and just like what mostly happened in that moment was the desire to like with those demons to do bad things and drugs, like left, like, and I wasn't like desiring to do drugs again. So that was like 6 months into the rehab. So it was like halfway done. So I was like, you know what, maybe there's something greater for my life. Maybe there is a purpose. Maybe I could do something with my life. And so for the second 6 months of the rehab, I kind of just really focused in on the classes and the meetings, and the Bible was the tool they use at Teen Challenge, to help you understand life and purpose and, recovery. And just read, I never read a book until rehab. Like literally, I don't remember ever reading a book ever in school until rehab, which is, when I was 20. So at this rehab, Teen Challenge ends up being like a pretty powerful program that's been around for a while. The name is kind of antiquated, but the program's not. So it has a 86% cure rate of people who go to Teen Challenge and stay there and then graduate. 5 years later, 86% of the people are still sober and clean. And people try to disprove that. And that's like that study came out of people trying to disprove that the program doesn't work. So I'm in the program, like, you know what? I want to help people no one wants to help. Like, I want to use my life to do something. Like, and I want to, so that was my mission, is to help people no one wants to help. And I felt like God wants me to start a church. That's what happened, actually. So I want to start a church for people that don't like church. Like, and I did that. So but before that, went to rehab, graduated. It's just a side thing. I remember like the month before I graduated, Alvin Iverson came to that rehab because one of his family members graduated from in Pennsylvania. It was a crazy day, and he was there. I graduated the next month, so one of our students graduated. Was one of our students. So after the rehab, that rehab was connected to a college called Valley Forge Christian College in Pennsylvania. So I didn't sign up for any other ones. I just signed up for that one. I went to that school. That's the only one that probably would take me. It's the only one I applied for, and my dad actually again came through in a big way, like because I didn't have any money. I had like credit card debt and all kinds of debt and issues. I went to college with no license and everything, and so he helped me financially that first year to get in, and so I could start getting financial aid and like clear debt and so forth. And so and I just went there with like a mission, like everything I did wrong in life, I got to start doing right. Like I didn't do anything right in high school. I said I'm going to do the opposite here. So I just like studied as hard as possible. Like I took that whole extreme thing of me and did that at school. And gracefully and thankfully, I graduated at the top of my class, literally. I got 2 bachelor's degrees. Like, I didn't even know I was doing that. I was just taking so many classes. I met so many amazing people. It just was a great experience. And it was actually part of my like recovery too. Like I was in a community the whole time, like living in dorms with people around me. So it helped, right? Jail, rehab to college. And then I wanted to, pursue more education. I kind of, did you go to college?
No.
No. So it gets addicting almost. Like it's a cool environment to be in if you like want to be there and learn and maybe become a professor or so forth. And that was one of my goals at one point. So, and one of my professors who was a mentor went to Harvard. And how he did it, he went to Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary in South Hamilton, Massachusetts, and outside of Beverly, Massachusetts. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So that school has a relationship with Harvard. I'm like, you know what? If he could do it, I could do it. So I went to Gordon Conwell and did 2 master's degrees, and we share classes. So Harvard comes to us, we go to Harvard, and so I went to Harvard and took the T there for a year and did 2 doctoral classes there and did 2 master's degrees at Gordon Conwell. I wrote 3 books when I was in my graduate school. I helped an awesome pastor start a church up there. And so it was a really, like, again, more community, still like went from, again, jail, rehab, undergrad to grad, living on campus. So, I was like away, like for like, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 6.5, 7.5, like 8 years straight. Like that was 8 years of my life. And then I wanted to start a church that nobody, for people that don't like churches. And I had again, I have no background in this stuff. Like, my background, I just told you it all. But it actually did help a lot because people could relate to like my story. Like I literally, my wife just said, "Are you nervous?" I was like, "Not really. I used to tell my story for a living. Like that's my story. God's grace through my life is what I told people, and literally pulled all kinds of people and resources. And we started a really great church in Maryland. We had like 1,500 people, 5 locations, 2 main campuses. People bought me $1 million pieces of property with like buildings for the campuses. We had a church and a nightclub actually. The 5th location was in Towson. So Towson has a nightclub called the Torrent, and literally they let us plug into all their amazing equipment. I had that place packed, all their lights. It was awesome. I'll show you pictures. So I did that from 2009, moved to Maryland. I didn't know anybody. A church was like, "Hey, if you want to start a church, we'll sponsor you. Go do it." So they did that, and they gave me a building. This little, crazy little white building, like the worst building you could possibly use, but it actually worked. Like it goes against every rule I learned in my master's program about like church planning. But it was this little building. We actually had a studio in there. We had some musicians come there, and we made our own music and so forth. But it actually worked. It was this little white building, but I had 500 people come into this little white building. It's almost like this. You're like if you take every square foot of your office, this little spot I could get 100 people into. I had 4 services, and we had like 500 people come into it within like 6 months. And then it expanded to other buildings and schools and clubs and so forth. We were just preaching a message that God loves everyone and wants the best for you and has a purpose for your life, just like happened to me. And people's lives were changed. But it was a crazy time too. It was like very taxing, overworked. I was leading it all, with a team. We had a great team. I was, stressed out a lot of success, a lot of difficulty at home. In 2018, I transitioned into owning my own businesses.
So you did that for 16 years?
I did that. Well, I was in school. I did that for 7 years.
Okay.
7. 8 years in school, in jail, rehab, and then 7 years leading the church that I left in somebody's hands. And then the great stuff. We started a recovery program. Amazing things happened. I, again, was overworked. It was a lot of people, a lot going on, very difficult, volunteers. So, and it was just 2018, it was just time to make, it was like the year of transition for me. I left the church and started some new businesses.
And were you paid for that position?
Yeah. In the beginning, there was no money. You have to create your own salary, like by giving. So when people give, that creates the money that you can like pay the bills for the building, pay the salaries. So yes, eventually it was a decent job. It was a good job. In the beginning, there was no money. So you have to like raise the money. So like just like a nonprofit. So how I did it was I started a nonprofit first. Like I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing what all these other religions and churches do. I'm going to go into this community and love 10,000 people and do something good for them before we even talk about the church. That's what we did. So it was called Good Cause. And we just loved people with no strings attached. Young people, single moms, and just help people. And off all that good work, then it was an easy transition to start a life-giving church for people that didn't go to church.
Now, the rehab you were in, was that just teenagers?
No. So that's the thing about Teen Challenge. It's not for teens. It's not for teens, actually. It used to be. There's a really good book. It's really thin. It's called The Cross and the Switchblade. David Wilkerson. You could Google this. In 1958, I think it was the 50s, there was this high-profile gang trial in New York City. I think it was Brooklyn. And he went there. He's a farm boy, I think, in somewhere in Pennsylvania, and literally felt like God told him to go. He was reading the newspaper, go help those kids. He walks in randomly into the court and somehow weaves himself into that trial and gets the kids off murder charges or so forth, and then starts Teen Challenge for it. And then Teen Challenge, yeah, and it grows around the whole world. There's like hundreds of these locations. And it used to be for kids. Now it's hard to have programs for kids because of the insurance and so forth. So very few are for kids, and then hence why they changed it to adult and Teen Challenge. But I think they keep the Teen Challenge name for the tradition because it still helps them raise money and connect to the history. But there's no teens in it. I wasn't a teen when I was in it, and I've never seen a teen in it.
So out of that sentence for that last charge, all you had to do was 4 months in jail, and then
complete
rehab.
A program, then 4 years of probation.
Okay, which you went to college for.
Yeah, so while I was in college, I was going to probation, taking drug tests. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, I was in a Bible college going to take a drug test, which was weird. But,
and you had no desire to do drugs once you left that rehab?
No, I never have, never did. Yes, none.
So that's over, what, 23 years now?
23 years, yeah. Yeah. So I gave you a chip. So we have 4 recovery homes in our world, and Matt and Evelyn Anders, the best people in the world, run them. So they have a woman's house and 3 men's house, and one of them we named the Comeback House. It was the first one we bought, and so we have these little chips which I gave you. When you graduate the program, we've given some of those away. But Matt and Evelyn run the homes, and so they help the people nobody wants. They literally get people who are homeless and get them help and treatment, and then into our houses. And they do a wonderful job, so yeah.
Do you think you got lucky or you were privileged to get that opportunity to go to rehab instead of prison with your criminal record?
I don't know. I would say you could say it felt like I was lucky. It was like random, but it might have. I think it was God's plan, obviously, for that to happen. I don't know what your thoughts about that are, but it shouldn't have happened. Like I had the worst record, and it was out of state from Jersey to New York. That doesn't happen. But from what I understand, what they found out was there was one judge that had a good experience with somebody going to it, and we had to change judges, get that judge, and that judge let me go to it. And that all happened for me to go out of state. So yeah.
Do you believe that people that are dealing with addiction should be given the opportunity to go to rehab rather than jail or prison?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, nothing good comes out of jail. I don't know. I mean, you definitely meet some good people. It definitely makes you think a lot. But the jails I was in, and I was in Newark, down Green Street, which is the worst. That's the worst one. I was literally sleeping on a mat under somebody's, Morris County Jail, the Union County Jail, a couple. So there was no rehabilitation stuff, at least from my perspective, or minimal. And there's some jails that have more than others now, but I think everyone should, be in a loving, caring, really supportive recovery program. But again, people are not going to get clean unless they want to be clean. They're not going to stay clean unless they want to. They do need the tools, but you can't do it for somebody. Like, I've been 23 years. I've helped a lot of people. Started some programs. We got some houses. My story's out there. So a couple things is we never want to enable dysfunctional behaviors in people, because my dad would do that. I tricked him into doing so many things, and he would do so many things. And a lot of loved ones do things for their loved ones, and they literally help them stay more addicted, get more trapped in their addictions. So don't ever enable dysfunctional behaviors with addicts. So, you can't work harder than the addict should be. So you can have all the great plans for somebody, but if they don't want to do the work, then you can't save them.
What do you think's the worst moment you faced in addiction?
Good question. The worst moment. That's a good question. Wow. I never thought of that. I don't know how to answer that, but I think some of the worst things that happen, like causing other people to get addicted to drugs, like because of my influence, that's very bad. Like when I was out there, when you're addicted, you want other people to be addicted. You want to do drugs with other people. That's very bad. The girl I was dating, when I went to jail for the 4 months and never came out, she became a prostitute in the streets of Newark, New Jersey, and got AIDS. That's very bad. Not to say I did that, but that happened as a result. And and people have died, literally died, because of the drugs I bought, and the things we were doing together. Our best friends, Anthony Anderson, Tim Clem, Eric Schmeltz, Bruce Clark, Melissa Davidson. I mean, there's so many. It's so sad that we were all, because of all of us together, at some point we all went our different ways, and people started to die, while we were in high school, but they still, every once in a while, I've done many of the funerals of my best friends.
How do you make amends for those?
For all those things?
Yeah.
Good. That's another good question. Well, when I do bad things, there's been some things in my life that, are not great even in, last, years ago. So I try to reconcile as many relationships as possible with people, like literally tell them sorry. I paid all my restitutions, you can only, most people, it feels like, will receive that. And it's really show them with your lifestyle changes, your behavior changes. That's the best thing you could do. But I've apologized, literally had hard conversations. Most of them go well, some of them don't. Yeah, not easy though.
What's the business you got into when you left the church?
So again, no salary, no, just out there. I was going to be a financial advisor. So before I left the church, my financial advisor was like, hey, you would be great at this. And he's like, I'm going to retire one day for a big firm. He's like, you should do this. So then I was like, okay, you know what? I think I could do this too. Become a stockbroker and financial advisor. So that's when I went back to all those jails and the police stations to get all my paperwork and start that process. And so I started to go down that road, like to be a financial advisor. So insurance, investments, and so forth. And I did some of that for a while. But at the same time, the reason the church was, one of the reasons was we did a lot of marketing. So people just started to hit me up about marketing. I'm like, I could start a marketing company. So at the same time, I was kind of trying to figure out the financial thing, which a roadblock did eventually come up because of the arrest. They're like, thank you for all this paperwork, but it was 18 years. They were like, we need at least you will be 20 years away from your arrest for us to consider it. So it was like, okay. But then after 20 years, I was like, I'm doing way better than, and when you work for those firms, you're like a slave in some ways to it. So it just wasn't right for me because the marketing company ends up doing really well. We have 150 clients and we have 25 people who work for us. We're all, we're serving clients. I'm getting a new client on Monday in the UK. I mean, we serve most of our clients are US based, but we've had a couple international. So it's called Exponential Media. We do social media marketing, online ads. We have 5 web designers, so we build websites. We, Google ads, Facebook ads. We work with small businesses to $100 million companies, and everything between.
Are you worried that sharing your experiences about your past could affect your business or how people
Dude, it's all over the internet. You could Google my name and this story is there. I literally told the same story all the time. Like, and there was, yes, I would, it comes out. And it's all over the internet. Yeah. Google it.
What would you say to people that are afraid to share their story because they're successful now but have a past that might not be publicized because the internet wasn't as what it is now, but they do have a past?
Great point. Great. And some of my friends won't. They will not let their past out. I honestly love telling my story, and it actually, I tell it to people I meet, in a first call with a potential new client. Like sometimes that they see the human side of me, and it sells me, right? And I tell them homeless to Harvard, and I was arrested 18 times. I tell all my clients, I tell them. And again, I make videos about it. I used to make more. It's recovery month this month, and I would make some videos in recovery month, and literally I was going to send you one. Because it was in my stories recently, but I would tell the whole story. And again, if you Google my name, it's on my website. It's out there. I used to tell it almost every Sunday. So there's lots of sermons out there with parts of it in it. So I've never sat down and told all like this, and I've never told all of it like this, but.
So what would you say to those people?
I mean, what I would say is it's actually very freeing to tell the truth about your story and not hide things, because so your secrets keep you sick, as one in recovery knows. So there could be a part of their life or part of their heart that is in prison essentially because they won't tell their story, and they're missing out on the opportunity to help so many people that need to hear their story, which my story has been used in good ways, even though it came out of a lot of pain. It's helped me find purpose, and other people literally have had their life changed they went to Teen Challenge or they went to Bible college because I encouraged them to, based on my story, based on people who were, coming out of addiction and in recovery. So I would say tell it. It sets you free. The truth sets you free. And so I'm a big proponent about it. And it actually might help them in their business too. I literally helps humanize me, and people relate to that. And most people have a story.
Yeah.
And they do. And once they hear that, and that separates me from the corporate snobby type of people when I get on calls with people, and they like that realness. So.
And I think the people that are meant to be in your life will accept you for who you are.
Right.
And anyone that doesn't accept you isn't really meant to be in your life.
Dude, you nailed it. Right. I'm the older you get, the more you want the right people in your life that are like that.
If someone could take one lesson away from your story today, what would that be? What would you want that to be?
Yeah. My main theme is a setback is just a setup for a comeback. And no matter how old you are, what stage or age you are in life, no matter how high you go or how low you go, every setback, it literally positions you for the better comeback. I've had setbacks in my life, drugs, some things in the church, and it's always pushed me further and better. And I'm happier and more content in this day than I've ever been in my life. And it's a result of just learning from my setbacks and allowing that to help me, come back stronger.
Awesome. Well, Jess, I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, dude, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing your story.
No problem.
Awesome. And thanks for the gift.
Yeah, no problem.
Can't wait to hang that up in the office.
Awesome. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. We're super excited. I love what you're doing. You have some big things coming.
Thank you,
So
bro.
keep it up.